All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show. Appreciate you guys being here. Happy belated 4th of July. I know that was yesterday. We're observing the holiday today, taking a day off from work. I figured I'd do another video for you guys. So, in our last video, we left off with me talking about a lot of different things throughout the unit, exposure of the first day to it, reporting to the field training officer, FTO, Ms. Lewis. What I'm going to talk about today, main focus is going to be on the shifts that you're going to work within TDCJ. This doesn't apply to food service, laundry, truck drivers, maintenance. This doesn't apply to any of the civilian staff or any of the supervisory staff. Or you'll hear them referred to the food service managers, the laundry. You'll hear them referred to as non-security. They are. They're still in charge of inmates, my opinion. So there's a little bit of friendly bantering between COs and those types of individuals. Now, sergeants, lieutenants, they're still on shift, as well as regular corrections officers. So this video is going to focus on COs that are on shift. You got two types of working schedules at the units. There's an 8-hour unit, there's a 12-hour unit. The unit that I worked at, Styles, was a 12-hour unit. All right. The 6-hour units, the 8-hour units, if I remember at the time, they worked 6 days on, 3 days off. Yeah, that's a long stretch in my opinion. The 12-hour units, you work 4 days on, 4 days off. 4 days off was a pretty nice little stretch. I did enjoy that. However, 4 days, 12 hours, 48 hours on shift. Okay? So, when you're in your when you're in your OJT program and you're reporting to your FTO, you typically work an 8-hour shift Monday through Friday. We didn't work any weekends. The only time that changed up as you got further on into your training program, you worked a couple of night shifts. You would work night shift in general population. You would work night shift in segregation. You also would work day shift on both with both sections. There were 4 sections. Day shift gen population, day shift seg. Night shift gen, night shift seg. So there was your 4 for that. And then it would just rotate and keep flipping and flopping from there. If one of the sections was short, typically general population would be short. They would call in for overtime, or if you had extra corrections officers in segregation, they would pull from segregation and put them in general population. I very rarely saw, in fact, I take that back, I never saw a general population CO stand segregation. Getting a little off topic, so I'll stick with the topic here for that. So, for OJT, you would work those different schedules, and as it got close to the end of your OJT phase, you would sign up for which particular shift you wanted to work, either Gen Pop or Seg if you wanted day shift, night shift. And from that point, it was up to the captain that supervised that particular shift to pick and choose. Usually it would be whichever one was short-staffed, or if you made a particularly good impression on the captain. I personally was assigned to day shift segregation. I remember the captain's face. I don't remember his name. I just remember him being in the FTO's office and putting a little bug in while I was talking to Miss Lewis. I made comment that I'd really like to get assigned to ad seg. I really enjoyed working in there. I really think I could be a good hand. And the captain was leaning down doing some paperwork. He looks up at me, says, "We can use you," and goes back to doing what he was doing. I had a pretty good feeling I was set there. So for OJT, like I've said, Monday through Friday, 8 hours. We typically get there at 8, and I want to say we were done around 3. It mainly went around Miss Lewis's schedule. She was effectively our shift supervisor. We didn't report to a lieutenant, a sergeant. Obviously, they were over us, but that wasn't our direct supervisor. It was Miss Lewis, the FTO. So our schedule was based around her. If she needed to leave early, a couple of days she did, it went out over the radio. All OJTs report to FTO Lewis's office. And then whatever we were doing, excuse me, whatever we were doing, we'd have to stop, go to her office, turn in anything that we had taken from her office, pepper spray, hand restraints, anything to that nature, turn it back in, and we were done for the day. It was a pretty chill time. It's going to be pretty much the best schedule that you're going to work there. Once you get on shift, it gets pretty tough. Now, I'm not going to go into the specifics of the seg shift that I worked right now. We're going to save that for another video. I'm just going to talk about the hours, the scheduling, and how the hours worked. So, you work 4 on, 4 off. That was called a set. Each month would typically have, give or take, generally between 3 to 4 sets. You got to figure 4 on, 4 off, 8 days, 8, 16, 24, 32. No month has 32 days. So it was pretty tough to get a 4th set in a month. You could pretty much count on 3. You work 12 hours. 12 times 4, that's 48 hours. You're saying, well, hold on, Jesse. Anything over 40 hours per Department of Labor, that's overtime. Yes, you're correct. However, how you get that overtime is up to this agency. There's 2 ways you can get it. Overtime and comp time. Some units, depending on what they're authorized, the funding, the budget, will pay you 8 hours overtime depending on what your hourly breakdown would be. Now, corrections officers are on salary. However, it does break down to a certain number, and that's what you would get. Personally, I never got overtime. The 3 years that I was at Stiles, I didn't get 1 cent worth of overtime. I got comp time. So, that 8 hours, it would show up every month on the 1st. When your pay would be deposited, you could go to Human Resources at any time and get a printout of your pay stub. And I highly recommend everybody do this. Keep track of it. Your comp time, your vacation time, sick time, sometimes can just kind of magically disappear. Call it falling off the books. So you need to keep that tracked. A lot of COs would carry a little pocket-sized calendar with them, and every day that they worked, they would write 12 on that particular day, and on the 4th day, they would write 12 and a +8, and they'd write CT by that. So they were keeping track of their time to make sure it matched up on their books. I highly recommend that to everyone. Don't always rely on Human Resources. So that 8 hours comp time. Each month, you would get 8 hours vacation time. You would get, it was either 4 or 8 hours sick time. I can't remember. I never used my sick time. The vacation time and the comp time would accrue up to 2 years. At the end of 2 years, whatever time you had on there disappears. It goes away. Sick time never does. You can accrue as much sick time as you want. The units that pay out comp time, most officers that need sick time take it in vacation or comp time. And a lot of ones, whenever they get close to that 20-year mark, have saved up close to 20 years of sick time. We'll just say 8 hours, because I can't remember. 8 times 12. Take that number, that's a year. Now let's go for about 17 years. A lot of them would have enough sick time, they could essentially retire early. sit at home on sick time getting paid for 2 years. Okay? Not a bad benefit. So, you're making your holiday time, you're making your comp time. Great. The 12 hours, that's not 12 hours from waking up at home and getting home. That 12 hours starts when you're in the turnout room and when the other shift relieves you. So whatever extra time it takes you to get to the unit is on you. I work the day shift. I would typically, now turnout, I'm sorry, skipped ahead. Turnout would start at 6 in the morning. And from 6 to 6:30, that was when the shift supervisor would usually give a breakdown of what had happened with the night shift, because I work day, I never worked the night shift. Would give a rundown of what happened during the night, anything to focus on, if new offenders were transferring in. Sometimes they would use the time to just shoot the breeze and talk about nothing. There were a lot of times it was 10 minutes worth of actual TDCJ business and 20 minutes of us just kind of BSing around with each other in the room. All right, so to get there, I talked about how you have to go through pat down and everything. Everybody has to go through the pat down. The civilian employees typically got there around 8. So the later that you got there, the longer the line was going to be to get through pat down. They could only allow so many inside the building. The rest of us were standing outside, hot in the summer, freezing cold in the winter, rain, it didn't matter. Sometimes you'd go in and you'd just be soaking wet. That's just the nature of TDCJ. So I would usually wake up around 3:30, 3:45 in the morning, get myself together, get on the road, get to the unit around 5 or so. That gave me plenty of time to get through pat down, Sallyport. Usually I would go to the ODR and get some breakfast, eggs and toast, pancakes and toast. Those are usually your two options. More so pancakes than eggs. Eggs could be pretty scarce a lot of times. So once you got relieved, you would get relieved at 6:30 that evening. Now you got to walk all throughout the building, all through the hallways, all down the sidewalk. Only 10 allowed in each one of the Sallyports, and everybody's getting off at the same time. So you get off at 6:30. There were times I wouldn't be in my truck with it running, ready to roll, until well after 7 o'clock. Getting home around 7:45, 7:50, back up again at 3:30. That was life around shift. You do that for 4 days. And then when you get your 4 days off, it was kind of a vacation. 4 days is a pretty good stretch. But that's how the shifts work. I can't speak much about the 8-hour units other than 6 on, 3 off, and the 12 hours. That's how it went from there. It was long days. It could be pretty grueling, but those are the shifts that you can expect. How you get day shift or night shift, it's just going to be completely up to the needs of the unit, wherever they're shorthanded. Anyway, thanks for tuning into the video. Hope you guys liked it. I hope this is informative. If you want me to cover anything that went on about the types of units, meaning the 8 hours and the 12 hours, the shifts, the time, the breakdown, anything like that, any more detail, feel free to fire away down below. Next video, we're going to get into my first use of force. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Stay safe. Take care. Appreciate y'all.